Come here now, girl.
Hey guys, it's your buddy again, Andre, here to do a different kind of video on my channel today. I usually don't do much like this, so feel free to give me some feedback if you like it. I'll try to get some more out, but without further ado, let's get on to the top 10 worst anime/manga moments of 2016. Number 5. Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress. While I know I said I'd keep this to moments, I had to make a special exception for this pitiful piece of anime garbage that somehow managed to become popular. Cabaneri, a shameless Attack on Titan clone that fails to deliver on any aspects that made the admittedly overhyped Attack on Titan a must-watch anime in my eyes. The anime starts off with one of the worst first episodes, and I wouldn't blame you if you jump ship at this stage, or train, excuse the pun. A train full of zombies is allowed to crash into the cities because the brain-dead loons working there don't bother to put any sort of precautions that stop a rogue train other than a drawbridge. Just to be clear, this isn't a devolved civilization, though judging for their actions one might think they are, but an advanced one, and nobody thought cameras or hell even lookouts. For fuck's sake, even Morse code would be a good idea for all trains about to enter the station. And while we're at it, this civilization shuns their best hope for survival and somehow survives death blows like cutting the arteries on your forearm or getting sliced by super zombies with fucking bandages, and instant bandages mind you. Let's talk about the main character guy here for a second. He's generic shonen guy, and just so we're clear, choking yourself does not stop all the blood from going to your head, just lessens the amount by quite a lot. And while we're at it, how the Mume stopped the transformation with a fucking ribbon when he took this iron steel thing to do it for the main character guy. She used a fucking ribbon. Mume is so dumb, and probably one of the dumbest chicks in anime, that she fails to realize the obviously evil bad guy is, well, obviously evil. But yes, that plotline turns out exactly how you'd expect it, predictable and boring. None of the other characters are worth mentioning, except maybe the Japanese Englishman, the real MVP of this show, and yes, the villain is shit, as well as nonsensical at times. The monsters are only terrifying when plot-induced stupidity occurs, like when Mume disobeys direct orders, or when the bad take over the train guys decide to obviously go the more dangerous route, and of course, danger occurs. The monsters also turn into Bijou halfway through the anime, and I swear Bijou damage fire not once, but twice in this anime. You guys went from regular zombies to Bijous in the span of like a few episodes. Cabaneri, simply put, is terrible, boring, and overhyped mess, and instead of this pile of shit, somebody, and I mean anybody, bring back Attack on Titan Season 2. Number 4. Toriko, the entire final ending and arc. Toriko, what once was a wonderful, albeit quirky shonen with lots of promise, even having 2 crossovers with some of the biggest names in shonen, was unfortunately given the Bleach treatment and forced to end sooner than the author had planned. What a shame too, as this ending sparked a lot of questions and definitely left the readers wanting more, including myself. This manga is on this list for 2 reasons. One, the sad nature of its ending, but make no mistake, the utter disregard for logic, pacing, and quite frankly good storytelling the author put into the last half of this series makes it more than a contender for this list. Now to quickly deflect the fanboy comments of, oh no, it wasn't its fault, or it was rushed. I don't disagree, but quite frankly, it doesn't excuse the utter abomination that was the last arc. Rushed. My god, is that the only word that comes to mind when thinking back on it, with characters and power-ups being introduced whenever the previous characters and power-ups stopped working. Although, unlike Fairy Tail, I'll give it some credit, the power-ups actually made some sense. But one couldn't help feeling they had no idea what the fuck was going on. Literally, as I read the last arc of this, I realized that epic shit was happening, but I was so busy trying to navigate my way around a nonsensical plot that without the help of food luck and albeit broken ability, there's simply no way I was going to comprehend this shit. The main villain went from bad to good in 2 chapters, the 8 kings were furtherized in 2 chapters, everyone got their main ingredient off screen, Komatsu had a demon nose belly show, and everyone powered up way too much and way too quickly for any of the sane to keep count. And that's just scratching the surface. I dare not mention the characters and the utter lack of development. I mean, for fuck's sake, Teppei learned knocking, a technique that was supposed to be difficult to learn, in 2 panels from a ghost of his former master, and became the knocking master in 1 panel. And yes, Midoriya, or Midoriya, whatever you want to call him, stood out as a great character, but one character does not make up for the overabundance of generic and shit ones and the utter lack of effort put into developing them. In the end, Toriko is a warning that if one wants to make a successful manga, never make a censored version of your manga and anime, especially with Toei, and maybe think twice before jumping to shonen. Number 3. Dragon Ball Super, the Trunks Saga. An entry on this list should come as no surprise to the clinically sane, and while I did make a video addressing the egregious episode in question, I could not live with myself not putting on the list. Dragon Ball Super is a bad anime, and before the fanboys and nostalgia tides chime up, the manga and anime are two completely different canons. Though I'm not sure how the manga saves you from criticizing the obvious pile of shit that is Dragon Ball Super. Let's talk about the time travel element. Oh, sorry, the attempted but ultimately botched time travel that till this day makes no sense despite totally releasing an official timeline. A timeline that does not solve the obvious paradox that Black can only exist because Goku fought Zamasu, but only because Goku fought Black, and Beerus wiping out Zamasu should have reset the timeline. The funny thing is that DBZ had a decent time travel arc, and the rules made more sense in this future fusion bullshit Super tried to pull, which is a colossal cock-up. There's the best villain of Dragon Ball, who's barely wrong about your typical fairy tale villain and does and says the exact same thing as the other villains. Seriously, what's new? I grant you he had a motive, a shitty unintelligible one, but a motive nonetheless. But he's just as obsessed with Goku and or destroying shit as the rest of the DBZ villains. And yes, I know Dragon Ball isn't Shakespeare, but goddammit, it canonly has done better than his pile of undefined feces that is Zamasu. Zamasu's plan also makes no goddamn sense, as he wants to wipe out mortals, but rather than just use the magical wish-granting balls, the super version, mind you, he instead wishes to play time hop across multiple universes, even recruiting his only friend, which happens to be himself, to play as they take their sweet time dealing with roughly 800 humans. Add nonsense of time travel, as well as a bucket load of plot holes, plot-induced stupidity, and maybe you've reached something half as abominable as Zamasu's nonsensical plan. Greatest villain, my ass, and BTW wants up with Super Saiyan Pink. We already know Super Saiyans turn blue head when mixed with God Ki, so why do we have a pink version? Explain your shit, Toei. Oh, and with the continuation of Deus Ex Machina items increasing and gods become the new heroes for hire, payable by food, is it any wonder fans lack any real sense of danger in this series and are downright fed up with it? But once the DBZ cast loses, albeit to the worst screensaver ever, but nonetheless they lose only to have a Deus Ex Machina button to press and allows God to solve all their problems, even allowing Goku to somehow walk and talk in the void of nothingness. And no, there is no way I'm forgetting the friendship power-up Trunks pulled, where somehow a being that was spanking the ass of Goku and Vegeta as gods was somehow taken out by a spirit bomb with the energy of less than 100 people. A spirit bomb Trunks should in no way be able to learn. Wow, I guess that friendship bandwagon is really taking off. Another thing we have to thank Fairy Tail for, I guess. Oh yes, and Trunks rages his way to a bullshit, still unexplained transformation and continues to using the power of plot convenience to be as strong as the plot needs him to be at that point. And of course, the usual punching and kicking to solve all problems is here. And techniques such as the Mafuba are introduced only to be dropped in favor of getting stronger and repeating the same motions you did before you got stronger, and to leave the exact same impact on the environment. Dragon Ball Super is bad, but this arc is horseshit. End this series before you're no longer milking a dead horse, but rather a non-existent one. Number 2, Fairy Tail. All the bullshit death fake-outs. Well, it's here. The series you all knew was going to make this list, and only because of my rule of only one thing from each series, I could only pick one thing from Fairy Tail, because after mulling over the vast amount of choices Fairy Tail gives you, it was hard, I'll tell you, to come to a decision. But I finally decided that the death fake-outs win as the worst moment in Fairy Tail in 2016. A low bar, as some of you may have guessed. While Fairy Tail is known for being generally awful, and my advice to the non-sadomasochistic is to stay the fuck away from this putrid pile, I think the dead fakeouts may have taken Fairy Tail to whole new nights of awful. Where the fuck is the tension? A question I and many other readers have been asking of this series, and I'm going to tell you, it's gone, skirmoosh, skedaddle, it's nowhere to be found, and you absolutely need tension during a war arc. Though I've taken to calling this arc more of a skirmish than a war, because that's exactly how it feels when all the good guys have so much plot armor, not even Urzo's armory can contain it. First off, let's start with Mira Jane's death fake-out, and I want to ask one important question. Why is this bitch still in this series? Her goddamn arc is over, and there's no more that she can do. There's more than enough tits to fill a fan service role, God knows. So when the man hyped up to be a god, August, puts a hole through her goddamn chest, you best believe people thought she was dead. But oh no, we can't let a good pair of tits go, can we? So she's immediately fixed. And then that kills so much tension. A completely pointless sidetrack, one might say, which it was, and it literally took away from a great chapter from Fairy Tail. There's Gagel, and this one got to me personally because there is still no legitimate way for this guy to have survived. Well, this without plot armor, anyways. This guy's entire lower half was nothing but barrier particles, but somehow a teleportation starts minor reconstructing spell is able to fix his wounds, and not just fix his wounds. Oh god, that's not enough. It puts him in the exact spot he needs to find the illusion Mavis creates, which allows his guild to come back together. If that's not plot convenience, I don't know what the fuck is. All this also happens in the span of 3 chapters, which makes things significantly worse and makes it hard to appreciate any sort of the subtlety and fairy tale of which it is lacking. Jesus fucking Christ, if Gadget actually stayed dead, my entire opinion of this skirmish arc would be changed. But oh no, he had to come back. And the worst part about this is that he's not even the worst death fake out in this goddamn series. The one coming up next, Juvia, is significantly worse. Let me start off like this. I do not like Juvia. I do not like her crazy stalker personality, and even freaking hell, her having Grey's blood in case of emergency is downright psychotic, and she should be institutionalized. But for fuck's sake, when she sacrifices her life to save Grey from Ironville, that was probably one of the best chapters and probably one of the best moments of the series, only to have it ruined in the very next chapter. She's basically instantly healed by Wendy and feels absolutely no ramifications from her actions, and Grey gets a fucking rage power up and allows him to beat Ironville. What the fuck is going on with Fairy Tail? End this series and end it as fucking fast as you fucking can. Fairy Tail sucks. That's a fact. Honorable mentions. ReZero, a guy gets trapped in a fantasy world and has to help out some cute chicks solve their problems. Another generic fantasy anime, way too overhyped, and it's really not that good. The Asterix War, a series that would definitely be on this list if it wasn't for the fact that Digigro made the most comprehensive takedown of this series, and it's way better than anything I could ever say about this series. Naruto Shippuden, filler hell. Seriously, why do you keep milking this franchise? The manga is over, there's already a new manga on the scene. Can we end Naruto already? I want to see the final chapter in anime form. This is ridiculous. Please go read the manga and stop supporting this garbage anime. And finally, number 1. Bleach, the entire ending. Shocking, I know a series has managed to surpass Fairy Tail in the god-awful department, but first let's appease the fanboys by acknowledging that Bleach ending early probably caused a lot of the problems with this series. That being said, just like Toriko, a series ending early does not mean he gets a free pass on the issues with the series. Bleach started off as this dark, gritty, but ultimately shown in anime with a unique style and a robust cast of characters. Unfortunately, the Eisner came along and shattered a significant number of these characters and had so many what the fuck moments you'd swear you're on some form of ecstasy. But oh no, the butt fucking didn't stop there, as the full-bring bullshit get your powers back arc came along only to ruin whatever hope the series had left. An arc so bad it literally ended the anime, and as we all know from Toriko, when your anime ends, your manga isn't further behind. So when a new arc was introduced with a seemingly unbeatable villain that seemed to know a lot about Ichigo, even looking like his vampire toe spirit, and yes, that is explained, I was skeptical that this was another Aizen, but my god, when the Sternriders first came down and simply wrecked shit so badly that multiple people almost died, and one actually did, and even badasses like Byakuya, Kenpachi, and even fucking Yamamoto were taken out with relatives. I pocketed my butthole to this seed expecting the epicness to continue. Unfortunately, it all goes downhill from here, folks, as Kubo decided to go back to his usual drugs. I think he and Mashima meet every Sunday to discuss how to fuck up their respective series and deliver to us the most stupid, putrid, concentrated pile of horseshit this side of the aisle. What the fuck happened? You had a badass enemy, a cool and intriguing backstory with the Quincy's, and one of the most liked characters from the main cast as a potential center for this arc, but instead he tosses that shit away as if he's allergic to good storytelling and instead returns Bleach to stale, formulaic battles of yesteryear, where all fights are essentially a game of power-up until you run out of power-ups, then you lose. I'm sure Bankai was a great idea when it was first introduced, but this shit has literally turned all battles into essentially waiting for Bankais to be revealed, or whatever variation of Bankai the enemies have, and then watching insta-win. It's like playing a turn-based RPG game, only all the characters are really stupid and explain the very minute details of their powers to their enemies, giving them a significant edge in battle. God, I wish that was the worst of it. Kubo literally introduces 2 OP Sternritter B and Zimerical, and in the laziest, downright ridiculous way, has Eurobak absolve them instead of letting the characters that we came here to see figure out an exit strategy or a way to win. And the bad news keeps going as Kubo introduces Ichigo's new Bankai, has it hyped up, and has it broken, not just once, but twice. Okay, one was an illusion, but we still had no idea what the supposedly super OP godlike Bankai could do, except the good old-fashioned boring Getsuga Tensho. This after making Ichigo every fucking race in the Bleach universe and giving him every fucking power available to every single race. This on top of the bunkai spam in the final fights where 90% of them turned out to be disappointing. I'm looking at you, Shinsi, and your bullshit plays, or the fact that some bunkais were just left unshown. Aizen, and while we're at it, offer up Kubo's arse was that Nanao's God-slaying Zanpakuto, because that shit was buried deep. I could go on about how the final chapter was an unfulfilling clusterfuck and a slap in the face, or about how Yuha's defeat was rushed, unsatisfying, and a complete and utter garbage, and I think you get the point. Bleach's ending is without a doubt the worst manga moment I've ever read, and I for one am glad this series is over. So there you have it, that's the top 5 worst anime/manga moments of 2016. Leave a comment below if you disagree with any of these moments, but just remember that it is my opinion, and feel free to let me know what you think is 2016's worst anime/manga moments. Have a nice one.